Hello, Mohicans. Welcome to a special edition of the Magic Our Way podcast. If you are part of the Disney fan universe, you have no doubt heard the news of the Disney CEO shakeup. Chapek was removed, and Iger was reinstated. Many were excited, some were hesitant, and some were happy about this news. Stay subscribed, for we will present our thoughts on this on Magic Our Way number 448. But first, here's a little something to lead us up to that discussion. I present a snippet from the Q segment of Magic Our Way number 311, titled Runaway Railway and Two Bobs. On this show, we discussed Iger stepping down and Chapek taking the reins. So let's travel back to the year 2020 and see what we had to say. Enjoy. Here we are on the Q, and this is a segment in which we get to discuss the news of the Disney day. And boy, guys, man, this past week, there was so much news that happened in the world of Disney, man, from like all the ride malfunctions and whatnot. But we're going to narrow it down to the one big thing that happened during this past week between our last show that was released and this show that's been released. And that's the fact that Bob Iger stepped down as chief executive of the Walt Disney Company. And then replacing him was Bob Chapek. So Bob and Bob.
Bob the first, Bob the worst.
Bob the worst. Kind of like Pope.
Soon to be known as Bob the worst.
It's like, hi, my name is Daryl. This is my other brother, Daryl. Kind of stuff. But yeah, so he's stepping down as chief executive, but he's going to remain on as executive chairman, and at least until the end of next year, to direct creative endeavors. So I guess it's to finish out all the stuff he probably was started with the 50th, I'm assuming, of Walt Disney World, amongst other things, I'm sure. But it's needless to say, it was a surprise to a lot of people, especially to this BBC article that we'll post on our show notes. A lot of people were surprised by this thing. And in a statement, Bob Iger said that this was the optimal time to begin to hand over control of the company to a new leader. So he felt like, while he's ending out on top, what's happened recently with Rise of Resistance and soon to be Mickey's Runaway Away, I guess he feels pretty good. And Galaxy's Edge, he feels like he's good. What do y'all think?
No. They're in the middle of an international crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I don't see how this could be the optimal time to go out. I mean, generally, when you're stepping down, there's a succession plan in place to where a date is set in time that this is when the transition of power will take place. Until then, we'll be grooming so-and-so to lead a success. You don't normally see this, where somebody just like, yep, your job, go for it. I mean, dude's got 2 years, almost 2 years, I should say, left in his contract. The 50th is, about a little bit more than a year away at this point. I mean, I don't know. The timing just seemed abrupt. It seemed sudden. The issues with the coronavirus. I mean, Galaxy's Edge.
Well, that's the thing, right? Maybe it's the coronavirus. It's like, ooh, yeah, okay, time to go.
How do you fix that?
Oh, Shanghai closed. Ooh,
but if you're the Disney stockholders, aren't you like, hey, can you wait a minute? I mean, come on. I mean, I don't see how that is optimum timing if you're a shareholder right now.
It's
time for Bob the First.
Yeah,
Bob the First thinks so.
You want to get the hell out.
I'm not doing this whole thing, but I'm going to just hang around in the background and finish a couple of these things.
Well, I'll give you my advice as long as I'm not the one that's responsible on paper.
Yeah, but coronavirus, never forget it. Shanghai closed. What? Okay, I'm going.
And that's not his fault. I mean, nobody saw that coming, but I get it.
Nobody saw this coming either.
Yeah.
And for the record, we're still drinking Corona Extra, as I mentioned in the introduction, with lime to counteract the coronavirus. Yes.
Yeah, the whole thing seems wrong. Something's up. It just doesn't feel right that this would happen so suddenly.
You'd be comfortable with him finishing out his whole term? Is what you'd rather?
No, I'd be comfortable if they would have made an announcement. In 6 months, so-and-so's taking over. Chapek, okay, fine. In 6 months, Chapek's taking over. That'll give us time to address the coronavirus issue, put a plan in place, do a little bit more of a peaceful transition of power, get everything ready for the 50th, all that good stuff that goes along with it. I just don't understand the need for this to be effective immediately. He's the CEO. I'm stepping back to focus on creative endeavors. When if you read this guy's autobiography, he tells you I'm not a creative.
Yeah. I mean, we knew that coming in too.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that knew that he wasn't a creative.
He's always copped to that. So I don't know. Something seems weird with the timing. I'm waiting for a sex scandal to break at any moment, or something.
I know something on Twitter.
Something
That
is happening.
Yeah.
Something on Twitter posted. He's like, people thinking, oh, maybe he's running for president.
I've
about
seen that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
I don't think so. I mean, he says he's staying on for another year. You need to get if you're getting involved in the political race, you kind of start needing to get in there now.
Like now, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. But
No, probably not.
I could be wrong. There's something seems amiss here. But having said that, so what do y'all think about Chapek? Because I know a lot of people don't like him.
Parks and Resorts, yeah. The biggest complaint, I guess, is the whole IP thing, right? They're not going to be everything that's going to be introduced is going to be related to something or other now, versus something original. Is the arguments that I see.
Isn't hasn't that been the way?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
for quite some time. I mean,
It's like The Mandalorian. That has been the way.
Yes. I mean, how do we know that wasn't Iger's directive and Chapek was just following along with it? I mean, I'm sure I've seen interviews where he's mirrored those sentiments, but how do we know he's not following the company line?
Right.
I don't know, and I'm not saying he's going to deviate from it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just confused as to why people believe that he was calling all the shots when it comes to parks and the ultimate
Parks and Resorts.
I was going to say Parks and Recreation. Actually,
Parks and
But I was like,
Recreation,
that's the
yeah.
wrong thing. Parks and Resorts.
Yeah, Parks
is what
and
I'm
Resorts.
thinking of.
I mean, that's a credit I will give him. At least he's coming from that vantage point instead of like an executive view, like Paramount with Eisner and this guy from I don't know where the hell he came from, Weatherman, kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, that's funny, right? He's a weatherman. I guess he forecasted a storm coming and got out.
So, real quick on Chapek's background. So, prior to joining Disney in 1993, Chapek worked in brand management at H.J. Heinz Company, and then in advertising at J. Walter Thompson.
So he's good with ketchup.
He's good with ketchup.
He was the one that made them pull all them ketchup packets in.
There you go.
Casey's.
Interesting.
Damn it, he was behind it the whole time.
That's Chapek. Ha cha cha.
Caught you.
Anyway, so that's
ketchup.
how he started prior to going to Disney. Then he started his career in Disney Home Entertainment. He was responsible for those controversial direct-to-video sequels.
No,
you remember those?
That's beautiful.
Yes.
So he got his bad luck out early. That's what we're going.
I wouldn't say it's bad luck.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's bad luck. Those things did just fine. I mean, he knew how to capitalize on.
Albeit not great, but
Yeah, no, they weren't. Quality-wise, no, not the best, but
He builds off a name that already exists.
he knows how to identify something that's doing well and like how can we capitalize on this?
like now.
Yes.
I'll give him credit for that. Like maybe he'll do stuff now versus like waiting a year and a day,
Oh yeah, okay.
like American Idol shebang.
Yes.
Hopefully so, but you have statistics and numbers and polls and studies. I mean, you have enough numerical.
Well, that's
backup.
That's the Bob Iger model. There is statistics and studies, and before you know it, it's been 8 years since the movie came out, and no one cares anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. that's totally fair.
Striking while the iron's hot means something. He also helped implement the limited release Disney Vault strategy, if y'all remember this.
I do remember that.
Yes.
The movie's going back into the vault, not to be seen for a while until they come
Right.
out.
It was kind of borrowing from the company's theatrical business model that they used to have, where the film would come out and then every it would disappear for like 7 years and it would come back. So to make something more of a hot commodity, it was like, you better get it now or else it's going back in the vault. And that strategy worked. Say what you will, it worked. People were going nuts over that. I gotta get it. It's going back in the vault. It's gonna be gone. It's gonna be stuck in there with Song of the South and you're never gonna see it again.
I need it.
Then he became the president of distribution at Walt Disney Studios for about 2 years. In 2011, he moved to Disney Consumer Products. And he oversaw mobile games like the Disney Infinity games. Y'all remember that with the little figures that you put on the little...
Yep.
We own that. That was very popular. He oversaw the merchandising of Frozen, which went off like gangbusters. And then in 2015, Chapek became chairman of Disney Parks and Resorts. Coincidentally enough, though, in 2018, Disney dismantled its consumer products division and folded it into the Disney Parks umbrella, which now allowed Chapek to oversee both parks and consumer products all over again. So he got his hands back on consumer products.
I really like that job. I want that back under my umbrella.
And he
have it.
He made it happen.
Let him have it. Let him have it. That's what Iger, Bob the First said.
So while running Disney parks, Chapek opened Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. A lot of people hit him up for cutting live entertainment, interactive characters, the third attraction that you were supposed to get riding on the back of some giant woolly beast, and of course the actual restaurant offering, the dinner theater type thing that was, because Oga's Cantina was supposed to be like the lounge area of what was supposed to be a bigger restaurant, and Bob gets the blame for cutting all that. He also redid Pixar Pier, Paradise Pier, Pixar Pier. Yeah. And interestingly enough, in one of the interviews that I saw, Bob Iger stated that he and Chapek disagreed over the retheming of California Screaming into the Incredicoaster because Bob the First hated the name, didn't like Incredicoaster, but eventually he conceded.
Wow.
Which goes to show that, again, CEO heavily involved. I mean, that's the thing. Now, him and the two Bobs butted heads, and the bald-headed bastard won. And he got his Incredicoaster because he convinced Iger. But, I mean, that just goes to show you that the CEO, I think it's kind of like a good cop, bad cop thing. I think a lot of people are like, ooh, we don't like Chapek because he's in charge of parks and resorts, and they're cutting live entertainment. And they're cutting, attractions. We're not getting the full breadth of what we should have gotten.
And that's what gets pegged with, right? Is ruining the guest experience a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know, man. It's what came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. Is he...
You don't know if it's all his fault?
Right. Is he acting unilaterally? I doubt it.
No.
Has he been given a company directive? I would imagine anything that especially in something as huge as Galaxy's Edge, anything like that would have needed corporate approval. And there had to be a budget in mind, and particularly after the second movie, where things were kind of looking like, oh boy, this isn't going as well as we had hoped it would have gone. Maybe there was a moment in there because, we were all excited when we saw D23. It's like it's going to be interactive, and, the bounty hunter is going to be after you if you crash the Millennium Falcon and all this cool stuff. And then we show up over there and it's like, this isn't all that good. Galaxy's Edge wasn't really anything all that impressive until Ride of the Resistance came along and made it now
a must-do.
Something substantial, yeah. I don't know about a must-do because I think you can walk right in and walk right out. If you just ride Rise of the Resistance, I don't think you need to go visit.
Oh, I thought you meant like Rise of the Resistance made it like you got to
over the top.
Was the must-do that you had to go to Galaxy's Edge for.
It put it on the map is what it did. It made it significant, but it didn't, by association, make
the entire area better.
Better, right, exactly. It doesn't make the lack of a real good signature restaurant, not noticeable. It doesn't make the fact that Oga's Cantina is cool, but after about 10 minutes, you're kind of like, I'm kind of bored with this. How many times are we going to pay $20 for a drink?
And that constantly going in your head.
Right, while standing the entire time and not having a place to sit.
Good times.
Right. So I don't know. The dude's he oversaw the new vision of Epcot as well, and was involved in the opening of Shanghai Disney. So I don't know enough to be able to judge this man yet. I'm not saying he's not the villain that a lot of people made him out to be. I'm not saying that he's going to be a great CEO going forward. I'm willing to give him a chance.
Well, it's more like a devil kind of thing.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, I would say as far as like Bob, we've done different stories, Bob Iger throughout, this property, or, thanks for getting Marvel, thanks for getting Star Wars. But then we also have topics we've talked about when we've talked about the price increases and whatnot. So now you just have a completely different guy coming in, and he's just been kind of running tandem with that. So you're more like, well, we don't know what will happen once this guy goes ahead and takes the reins. I mean, I would hope that he makes things a little more manageable for the average Joe, as far as like financial incentives are concerned. So that would be cool, something to see. But as far as what he already has, I mean, you have Star Wars, you have Marvel, you have Pixar, Lucasfilm. I mean, you have everything already kind of set for you. So you can't really blow that. So hopefully he has a better time frame of how to implement something like that and make it more effective, or at least keep the status quo with it.
See, I don't have a very good opinion of Bob Iger as CEO of Disney. I know a lot of people do, and it's not that I think Iger screwed up Disney, but I think a lot of the things that are being attributed to Chapek probably more belong right in Bob's lap. I mean, you don't get to spend as much money as Bob did acquiring all the Pixar and Marvel and Star Wars without having to pay for it somehow.
Yeah.
And spending kind of stop. I mean, we used to talk about it all the time that there really wasn't. I mean, maybe once every 4 or 5 years you got an attraction at Disney where it's like, ooh, I got to go see that. Now you're starting to see a lot more come about. And look, hey, since Chapek's been in charge of parks and resorts, you're starting to see a return to dark rides. I mean, Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway sounds amazing. That sounds like it's going to be something next level, something you're not going to be able to go ride at Universal for sure. I mean, this isn't a cookie cutter attraction. This isn't like a simulator thing. Stick them in front of a computer screen and look, now it's soaring around the world, or it's soaring over Avatar Land, or wherever the hell it is. This is something, Rise of Resistance, next level. The Disney Pirates ride in Shanghai, next level. I mean, we're starting to see some really cool attractions. So, I mean, if you're gonna get on this guy like, oh, well, he was in charge of parks and resorts when all this budget cutting and cost cutting was taking place, well, you got to give him credit for the successes.
Yeah, that's true. He brought back Spider-Man from Sony.
Well, I don't know that he had anything to do with bringing Spider-Man back. That was probably...
I'm sorry, Bob.
The first.
Yes,
Bob the first.
There's two Bobs.
Bob the first.
Right,
two Bobs.
Two Bobs walk into a bar. One says, I'm going to own the place. The other one says, I'll wait in line.
What about Bob?
Bobs.
Who? Bob who? Bob who?
Babbo.
Bob.
Dos Bobs.
Those Bobs.
Dos Bobs.
That's another. He got slammed for Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, and I thought that was a brilliant redo.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, he didn't have anything to do with how the original Tower of Terror was built. I mean, I thought the redo of that was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
And most he could do is really check a box, right? Bob the first. I'm saying, yeah. I mean, if it's not for him, you don't have Disney Plus. So, I mean, there's a couple of shows we were able to pull off from that. So, thank you, Bob the first.
What did y'all think about Pixar Pier? That's another thing he gets slammed on. I thought Pixar Pier was fine.
I had no issue with that. Had a turkey leg. Original recipe.
It didn't bother me enough. No.
Yeah, it was
I
good.
mean, it's still the kind
I
of
never
same
saw
as
the original,
before.
but
I mean, it still felt the same.
Yeah, it felt the same to me.
Still carnival-y, boardwalky.
I felt they went out of their way to kind of give it more of an identity. They're like, okay, well, we need to give
A cohesive one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to make sure this all kind of ties in together. This is going to be a place for Pixar. And I think they basically looked at it and said, well, what can't we get rid of? Toy Story Mania. Okay, cool. So Pixar then? All right, cool. And then they went from there. So I don't know. I'm willing to give the guy a chance. Do I have high hopes? Of course not.
How many years or months do you give him before you actually formulate a opinion whether this guy Bob Jr. or Bob Dos?
Bob the second.
Bob the
Dos
second.
Bob.
A lot
How
of
about
people,
his mama's side?
Pope John
Yeah.
Bob the second.
Pope John.
a lot of people are saying that this is an ideal time for Iger to get out. I think this is the ideal time for Chapek. Chapek is going to come out of this a lot better, I think, than Iger is, because who doesn't know that the coronavirus thing happened on Iger's watch?
Right.
Not that it was Bob's fault, Bob the first. Not that it was his fault or anything like that, but that he this is going on. I'm out. So I mean, everyone's going to kind of give this guy some slack. It's like, oh shoot, you kind of got slammed with this. And then now we're redoing Epcot to boot. The 50th is coming up. I mean, by that time, hopefully the coronavirus thing will have all cleared up. And then now you're stepping into that. The only thing he's got to worry about is, Marvel and Star Wars. Those movies have kind of run their course, and those franchises kind of need new direction.
Well, they've got new properties now, so hopefully, he can do something.
He's going to incorporate that. So I don't know. I think Chapek is going to have a decent enough start to his career. I mean, I don't like the way the transition was done, but I don't know. I'm willing to give Bob Chapek a chance, mainly because, like I said, I was never a big Iger fan. I don't like really much of anything he did, to be quite honest.
I would say you have a point on him get Bob C. That's what I'm stick with. It's Bob I and Bob C.
Oh, Bob the first, Bob the second. How about that?
I like them both.
Bob 1, Bob 2.
Bob 1, Bob 2. 2 Bobs.
Tweedle Bob and Tweedle Bum.
Bobby. Ricky Bobby 1.
Bobby D and Bobby Dumb.
Bobby D, Bobby C. Well,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think with the Slack part, most of the time, right, somebody comes in somewhere and they say, okay, like you said, they'll give him some slack, but then that's like got to be within a year period just to see what his game plan would be, I would estimate. And then probably that second year, that's when they're gonna be like, okay, all this other stuff is shaking off. What are you gonna do about it? How are you gonna make us more money? The old men stockholders are breathing down your neck. Bob,
well, that's where it's gonna be telling. It's how the money goes.
So basically. Would you give it that second year? Then you give him slack on the first year since this transition is happening. Sure. And then you see what's up on the second year. Do you judge from there?
Probably so. I mean, if you're within the first year, you give it taking off remnants of the Iger years, the stuff still happening, the stuff that's already been going. After that, it's all him.
Yeah.
It's like when there's a football team, there's a new coach. You still have a lot of good players, and she may have one good year, and then after that, it's all the coach.
Like a presidency.
Or yeah.
I don't get into politics, but yeah. I mean, I give it the second year, so I'd be cool with the first year, but the second year, I would like to see what would transpire.
I think most people who've been following along with Disney keeps waiting for that drop off the cliff. But this is really, I mean, it's an exciting time to go to Disney. It's an expensive time to go to Disney, and let's see how he combats that. But, I mean, the new attractions that they're opening over there are now must-see. This isn't your standard little typical boat ride or simulator-style attraction. What they're doing is something brand new.
I hear the simple boat rides are sinking.
It's an immersive experience.
Only a foot.
It's only a foot.
Only a foot into it.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. After this happened, of course, Chapek took over. Things started happening in the parks, and I just thought it was funny because it's like, okay, everybody's blown up. Oh my god, the jungle boat sank. I mean, how deep is that damn thing anyway? Nobody was really in danger, I don't think.
No, they made it sound like the friggin'
Titanic.
Yeah,
people drown.
I was going to say the Indianapolis from Jaws.
Yeah.
1,100 tourists went into the water.
The animatronic alligators
attacked a tourist. Yeah.
And the hippos ate it, but he only had so many pistol
What was the name
bullets.
of that boat that went down?
Oh, I don't know.
Something Bertha? I can't remember.
Big Booty Bertha?
Mr. Hooper.
Bob C. Bertha.
That's
Bob
the
C.
Big
Bertha.
Booty Bertha.
Big Booty.
Right there.
Bob
You were on the
Bertha.
Bertha?
You remember them times? Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I'd be curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what people. I'd be curious to see what people are so angry about this.
I am too. I mean, because I think everyone kind of saw this coming. I mean, who didn't know this was going to happen? I mean, I think people were hoping against hope because they've demonized Chapek, but again, I don't understand the idea that Chapek was acting unilaterally, that he wasn't under some kind of corporate directive from the other Bob, the two Bobs.
Right.
It reminds me of Office Space with the two Bobs. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
I got to go see the Bobs.
Yes. A lot of the reasons people post on Twitter and stuff is like, okay, did any of that stop people from going or stop people from spending money at the parks? No, it's made it harder. To even go to the parks or even afford a vacation there.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we're losing entertainment and stuff. And I love live entertainment and stuff as much as the next guy, but as far as the company goes, nobody's not going to the parks.
No.
Right.
Nobody's not going to see their movies, that kind of stuff.
You can't it up that bad to where, like you said, nobody wants to do it anymore.
Well, they almost did back in the day. There was a point where almost kind of got a hostile takeover, but that's been long gone now.
Well, if FastPass Plus doesn't screw it up, I mean, that to me is, again, the worst. I mean, when you're vacationing over in those parks and you can't even be guaranteed to get on any of these new and wonderful rides that you might be going back to see because, oh my God, how wonderful is this? So let's see how Bob answers that problem.
Bob C.
The second Bob.
The second Bob the second.
Bob the second.
Pope John Bob the second.
How would they give him a State of a Union address or something that he knows what he's got to deal with beforehand, so he doesn't cry like into his pillow at night.
Who, Chapek?
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrote the list.
You can see it. That's why you laughing, because you can totally see it.
No, I'm laughing because it's a pillow stacked with money.
Yeah.
His luxurious king size.
He wrote the list.
Alone in his mansion.
Yes, but he's crying. No, I think he's pretty happy right now.
Yeah, I think he's
bet he
okay.
is.
You think he's okay?
And all the paper cuts you can, Bob. See, the C stands for cash.
That's right. Well, guys, look.
Give Bob a chance. Give Bob a chance.
All we are saying is give Bob a chance.
Give Bob some cash.
Well, guys, look. Mohicans, ladies and gentlemen, I'm curious to know what you think about the whole Chapek thing. And this is definitely the one podcast where you can voice your opinions, bad or good. We want to hear it. Are we missing something? Let us know. We'd love to hear what your thoughts upon the whole Bob Chapek taking over for Bob Iger. Hey, we hope you enjoyed that trip back in time. As always, magicourway.com is where you can find all of our stuff, and you can elevate your support of us at patreon.com/magicourway. Also support Eli's comic prowess at ivorycomics.com and email Lee at magicourway.com to book a vacation to any of the Disney properties and beyond. On behalf of Danny, Eli, Lee, and myself, Magic out.